of the vanishing languages. So I'm giving you this context so that we understand how open access will also affect the global south in as far as progress is concerned. This is from the book, The End of the Cognitive Empire, which emphasizes on the lack of epistemologies of the global south within the international scholarly landscape. I'll explain the reasons why there is this call to change the matrix within this scholarly communication. So these are the key pillars of science there: open source software, open access, open educational resources, open peer review. We usually talk of open science, but not much is talked about regarding open humanities, which is also narrated and is shared among 5 other freedom, where human beings are endowed with the right to make access knowledge freely without any limitations, right? Arises from what we can call a liberal democratic philosophy, which argues that knowledge should be accessed by the public. And there is also the extreme view, which is radical view, which is free accessibility of all knowledge. In other words, break down all the barriers, remove all paywalls, and make knowledge free, especially where some of the research is funded by taxpayers, but the taxpayers never get to benefit from the researches that they've been done. They are locked under paywalls, and this is what these guys are fighting for. So this open scholarship era has seen the emergence of what are known as the modern day Robin Hoods. For example, there's this guy, Arnold Schwartz, who wrote the Guerrilla Open Access Manifesto. In the Guerrilla Open Access Manifesto, Arnold Schwartz vehemently stresses the need to demolish paywalls to facilitate access. And he went on a rampage hacking databases and free knowledge to the public. And he just was found dead in a mysteriously, but he's one of the heroes of this open scholarship. ABC and etc. That era. This is where these guys were campaigning for this open access guerrilla manifesto. So the premise is removing barriers to access becomes a moral act. And it's immoral to enforce paywalls. So they saw paywalls as something immoral because the ultimate beneficiaries of paywalls are a small group of people who own the. So the key there is let's widen access to the whole piece or cake of knowledge rather than keeping it as only for those who have got access to knowledge. So we can afford control over knowledge. So we say free and restricted access to information and research, openness of preprints, grey literature, and openness as freedom of inquiry, openness of educational resources, openness of preservation and sustainability, openness through digital networked environments, openness as authorship rights, self-archive, publish and perish, self-archive and flourish through that other model. green open access model. Openness, again, in terms of governance and transparency of institution, and openness also of user rights and the democratization of knowledge. These are also the key tenets of this open access. So what are the roots? The open archives, open data repositories, free commercial databases, open educational resources, open licenses like CCBY, uh, open access policies, open peer review, invisible colleges, for example, wikis, blogs, discussion forums, academic social networking sites, Google Scholar, ResearchGate, Academic Edge, Web of Science, ORCID, JSTOR, among other developments. Another key proponent again of this is a guy known as Richard Stallman, 1999. He is also the author of the Hacktivist Manifesto. The Hacktivist Manifesto was in 1999. What it advocated for was not hacking systems for nefarious ends, but they were frustrated by commercial or what we call proprietary software. You remember at one time, academic libraries flirted with commercial software like Millennium and etc. But the costs were unbearable until they, ended up going for the free open source software. So he advocated for freedom of open source and was hacking databases to, break codes for these sources and then give them to communities. And he came up with the 4 essential freedoms of free software, which he said freedom to run the program, like what we do with core for any purpose, the freedom to modify the program to suit one's needs, customization, the freedom to redistribute copies either gratis or for fee, the freedom to distribute modified versions of the program for the benefit of the community. So these are among some of the advocates of this, revolution with open scholarship. We are able to showcase our academic excellence since it can be it can also be retrieved, shareability, accessibility, shareability, or retrievability, accessibility, uh, of open scholarship, positive image for the university through digital footprints, metrics, scientometrics, bibliometrics, autometrics, and etc. Fast accessibility, easier identification online, increase in research impact, research rapid, and etc. Those discovery tools, they enhance, the benefits of this open access, restricted within boundaries or not. This brings in again the question of what we can call because of globalization, we've got what we can call the deterritorialization, whereby scholarship is deterritorialized. Content from Africa can be hosted elsewhere. Content from another country can also be hosted or accessed elsewhere. So these are issues that are also becoming topical. And also on a global scale, there's underrepresentation of African scholarship. Well, African scholarship makes a smaller percentage as compared to the other countries in the global north. And also issues to do with language and power. English has always been a language of upward mobility. And as a language of upward mobility, it is that dominance on a global scale. And looking at Africa, we have indigenous languages that are still struggling to, become officially recognized and also fight their way to become, ladders of progress in the future trajectory where we are going. And also another issue is lack of support from institutions and lack of funding. Well, when we look at Southern Africa, there are some countries that provide funding for research, and others are still grappling with the issue of funding. So what's the theoretical basis for this open scholarship? Basically, it's what I have been saying here, like the philosophy is liberal, democratic philosophy that knowledge should be accessible to the public since it is funded through taxes. Then the anarcho-liberal political philosophy. This is now the one that is the focus of the Gorilla Open Access Gorilla Manifesto, which says that whether it's public funded or not, it should be accessible to all publics. And this guy, Arnold Schwartz, he downloaded a portion of JSTOR's online repository of academic articles and shared them for free. And this became a problem with the opponents of this open access movement. And again, they undermine access to research findings, and they continue to represent a substantial barrier to democratize access to information. They also impact researchers, us as researchers, because you might not be able to access your own research. So I want, for the sake of time, I've talked about the paywalls, and they hinder the ability of participants to genuinely participate and benefit from content that has been produced using public funds. Now, open access, open scholarship, and the coloniality of knowledge. So open access, it's a tool. It's an argument that it's a tool facilitating and accelerating the access of knowledge from the global south to the sciences of the north. So this is like a parasitic relationship, sort of like a dialectical relationship, in the sense that it's also aiding the global north at the expense of the global south. Another key challenge, again, is that it is causing epistemic alienation of scientists, and as their knowledge is taken away to the other parts of the world. And they say that open access makes work produced at the center of the world more accessible to the periphery areas and reinforces it as a theoretical reference. So this becomes some form of epistemic injustice or imbalance. And they say that open access prioritizes Western epistemologies. This is what is argued in that book, The Epistemologies of the Global South. And another issue is the dominance of English as a lingua franca. And there are so many languages that are not benefiting, especially the indigenous languages, that just are sidelined. And another issue also is to do with the data colonialism. How do you have any control of the data that is generated online? And that data falls into the hands of private data entrepreneurs, and you find it being used elsewhere without your consent. And there's also underrepresentation of scholars from the global south. I'm about to conclude. Those are Vienna principles on open access, which I think you're familiar with, because they are also manifested in other, frameworks as well, because of accessibility, discoverability, reusability, reproducibility, transparency, etc., among other things. Now, how do we decolonize this open scholarship? In other words, how do we make it an emancipatory, a liberatory tool? The argument there by decolonial scholars is that they propose alternative science grounded in global South epistemologies. So we are used to using theoretical frameworks and models from the global North. But we can also use theoretical frameworks and models from the global South that are grounded in the experiences of the global South, so that we think without a box, you see. And they say that this proposal challenges the hegemony of the Northern Anglophone science world, where you are bringing in new epistemologies. I see so many institutions now have decoloniality as part of their trust. So this science being proposed should resonate with the multilinguistic and inclusive epistemologies free from mainstream paradigms. Most cases say positivism, post-positivism, but we could also talk of other paradigms, Afrocentricity, Africology. You see, there are so many. We want that would be a subject for another time. So they say also open scholarship in Africa should adapt to new reality and emphasize high quality institutional archiving instead of publication only in global North platforms. And also the fact that we should not use open repositories just as a way of dumping content that we don't want it because we just want it to be in the repositories. But ensure also there are processes and mechanisms for quality checking and creating, develop and sustain strategic partnerships between universities, of which I think this is what Zurich, Maliko, Zaliko, Sanlik have been doing to promote this cooperation and collaboration and enhance access to knowledge. And also create decolonial contact zones for promoting epistemologies of the South through open scholarship. Now, the concept of decolonial contact zones arises from Michael Foucault's theory, which is based on what he called heterotopia epistemesis. And also Jacqueline Pratt came up with the decolonial contact zone. And Habermas came up with the third space, or what he called the esprit dispace. Now, these are spaces whereby you multi-voices, multi-ideas, spaces for idea exchange, where ideas can collide. You do not necessarily to be homogeneous and all believe in the same thing. You are allowed to, dialogue and come up with a way. We say we begin with a theory, thesis, antithesis, and the synthesis. So libraries as epistemological institutions are also heterotopic spaces because they promote multi-voices, not only multi-voice through people coming in, but also through the narratives that they house within their digital and virtual spaces, whether digital books on different theories that collide with each other, that converge with each other. And also another issue there is emphasize data and knowledge sovereignty. Communities should have a say regarding how their data and knowledge is shared and used. Most cases, people come, conduct research, and they do not come back to share that knowledge with the participants of that research. And also, how to make African ethos of Ubuntu find expression in open scholarship, of which open scholarship is also a humanizing paradigm in the sense that it's premised on democratic principles. I think I'm about to conclude. So to conclude there, we need to sustain an equitable global information infrastructure with a focus on collaboration, cooperation to enhance open scholarship, to also deal with issues of the monopoly of digital technology and its high costs, and also how can libraries also work with like entrants to enhance access rather than just relying on commercial internet service providers. So libraries are the anchor of knowledge, economic matrix. So we need to rethink, reprofile, reinvent, recreate multitudes to meet and dialogue with various stakeholders. These are the third spaces in line with Habermas's theory of what he called the esprit disperse, or what Michael Foucault called heterotopic epistemices, places where divergent voices converge and collide, and all sorts of things. My presentation comes to its eclipse on this note. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you for such a profound, rich, and detailed presentation. I will now take this opportunity to ask the questions, contributions from the floor. If you have any questions, you can either type in the chat or you can raise your hand. Colleagues, let's discuss. Hello, colleagues, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Please, let's contribute. Let's ask Prof some questions. I am sure this has been a very, very enlightening topic, area of discussion. I'm sure it has invoked something in our scholars and our participants. Any questions? Maybe silence means that people didn't hear anything or they heard everything. I am only seeing acknowledgements of an informative presentation in the chat box. Are there any questions? Thank you. Ayanda, you can go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Prof. It was very engaging, very enlightening. As librarians, we are struggling with issues of advocacy, getting what I usually refer to as a buy-in either for national adoption or for institutional adoption. So with the conversion that you have really made through this presentation, if anybody doubted, I want to believe now we are fully converted. How then do we take it to those who we report to? Thank you.
Oh, thank you, thank you so much, my sister. Yeah. Okay, you are talking of conversion. No, I was not very pontificate, but I was bringing out facts which are drawn from some of the works that we've been doing, in various circles here, based on the principles of science. Well, first of all, the aspect of information and knowledge has not been taken seriously by those who fund us. But they not maybe privy to the fact that we are now in the knowledge era, and where data and knowledge are now the new currencies. Just as how the previous modes of production were determined by certain factors, land, industries, and etc. So we need to bring them to workshops where we discuss these issues with the people who are knowledgeable, so that they understand the value of investing in institutions like libraries, which are not just an appendage of a university, but they are a critical component of that university. And as I said, the heartbeat. And once you invest in them, it's unfortunate when you go to other places in the global north, the library itself becomes an index of the level of service delivery and development of that institution. Let's say, University of Illinois, University of this. And well, that would be because of the fact that they are at another level in terms of development, and also Africa is where it is because of arrested development. So we need to have advocacy, as the sister has said there, to lobby and campaigns to lobby for this support for libraries, because in some cases there are not many spaces for libraries left. In other words, if Habermas' theory argues that social spaces, including libraries, are diminishing as global capitalism takes toll, it will privatize everything. And what we have are more beer halls, more shops, and less spaces for contemplation, less spaces for connectivity, free from monetary demands that you experience when you go in a supermarket. So other ways, I think colleagues within the platform can also contribute, my sister. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you very much for that insight. Any other question? I can see on the chat box a comment. The issue of decolonization starts with you and me. Constance goes on to say, My apologies. I was challenged on the issue of us being expressive in our Ubuntu settings and the need to gatekeep on the quality of the output we put in the global space. Thank you, Prof. I think that was just a comment. There's a question there from Lawrence Akim. What ethical considerations arise in the use of digital tools and platforms for open scholarship? I think that's a question directed to Prof. Would you like to respond on that one, Prof?
Yes, I can briefly. Yeah, it's just like the era in which we are of emerging technologies, artificial intelligence, and etc. And how do we now balance between technological progress and upholding ethical considerations? There is this author who argues that with the rate at which after the advent of AI, there are so many books that have been produced and some other even articles that have been produced. And this author was arguing that we want this lead to what we can call the McDonaldization of scholarship, or what we can call the homogenization of scholarship, because all along scholarship has been generated, using human creativity. So you get this richness in terms of how researchers approach certain topics and etc. But with McDonaldization, you are looking at, if you go into a McDonald's, whether it's here, anywhere in part of the world, the standards are the same. The element of surprise is missing. So that's one issue there. And also another issue has to do with privacy, anonymity, because now we talk of data capitalism, the surveillance economy, the emergence of independent digital entrepreneurs who thrive on looking at your browsing patterns and etc. And they sell that to companies for marketing and etc. without your consent. Issues also to do with data and knowledge sovereignty. When researchers go to research on a particular community, maybe they're coming from the global north, after they depart, that is it. The global people who were the participants never hear anything, neither do they even get a copy of a repackaged document that is distilled to suit their level of understanding and language. That, okay, this is what we're doing now, what we found out when we were conducting your study about you. So other issues also have to do with intellectual property rights and violations of these intellectual property rights. So libraries as pedagogical institutions, as institutions that also provide independent learning, they are doing a good job because they've got information literacy programs. Some have even advanced further to meta literacy programs where they go beyond just information, but also the technologies and etc. And others are now incorporating artificial intelligence literacy to deal with these, ethical issues within AI. I think, on a nutshell, if anyone has something they can add.
Thank you very much, Prof, for the response. There is another question from Edwin. It reads, thanks, Prof, about the collaboration. Would you recommend more of South with South or more of South with North? or a mix of both? Which of these would best decolonize? That's a mouthful.
I rather recommend an eclectic model. An eclectic model where you are incorporating both because of the fact that, globalization, deterritorialization, boundaries being blurred, and etc. Even though South-South collaboration is still useful, but we cannot shut the doors to collaboration with colleagues in the other part of the global north. So both an eclectic model can still serve a good purpose and bring about desired results in as far as decolonization is concerned.
Thank you very much, Prof. Are there any other concerns? More questions? Let's dig deep from this wealth of knowledge. Now that Prof is here with us, let's learn from him. Maybe there's another concern, Prof, about dispelling concerns or assuring researchers on the security or that their research output will not be stolen in the sense that here in Zimbabwe, we are now talking of Education 5.0, which implies that our research output should subsequently lead to the production or to innovation products and services. So some researchers might feel that if they put their research out there for everyone to see or to read or to access, their innovative ideas might be stolen. How then do we inform the scholars that the openness of scholarship, they stand to benefit more than just thinking that some entrepreneurs out there, like you highlighted earlier on, are out there to steal their research output?
Well, yes. Well, the thrust towards Industry 5.0 is noble and desirable. I think also institutions or systems have got options for embargoes. So if you feel that maybe for the interim, your findings should be embargoed, as they do, for example, in the hard sciences, medicine, and etc. It's still fine to make use of an embargo, but there are the benefits of open scholarship is also the fact that you are, it's not only about yourself, but also about the various stakeholders who are of importance, the taxpayers themselves. And while, yes, the initiator is important as the originator of the and creator of the idea, but also the world in which we are in now, this weird, wired world, makes it very difficult to avoid being part of this open community because of the fact that you risk exclusion from not only funders, but potential collaborators, people whom you can work with, irrespective of time and space.
Thank you, Prof. There is another question in the chat box from Delta. It reads, hello, Prof. How to delimit this to school levels like secondary? Again, how can we decolonize our data as Africans? I don't know if I read that correctly.
Yeah, I'm reading it. Yeah. I don't know where he says how do we delimit this to school levels. Yes, that's what I was saying, that we have not reached a point where we've got, like, let's say, a national consortia for nationwide access. Like the Indian model where they say one user, one subscription. So India has got a national consortia that is funded by the government that incorporates all the different types of libraries, whether school, church, or ecclesiastical, you know, to become part of this initiative, which is for nation. The main focus there is on nationwide access to information. It has been very positive in the sense that it prevents what we can call information apartheid, technological apartheid, because institutions pull their resources together. And just as how the consortia are operating and benefiting from the relationship that they have, because they do not have like a parasitic relationship, but it's more of like a symbiotic relationship where they all benefit at the end, not only in terms of sharing resources, lowering costs, but also sharing knowledge, sharing expertise among themselves. So it can be cascaded to schools and other libraries, as long as we move towards establishment of a national consortia for wider access, which requires also a lot of planning and support. But the good thing is that we've got a classic example of a consortia, not only a consortia, but a consortia in Southern Africa that have made significant progress in proving themselves that they can work together as librarians within academic institutions and their affiliates, which is a very encouraging thing, because you read about what they're doing, what they've done, and etc. So it gives us a lot of hope. Then the other question was, how can we decolonize our data? Yes, we can decolonize our data by understanding the issues to do with data sovereignty, issues to do with reterritorialization of data and knowledge. How much control do you have over your own data? How much control do institutions have over their own data? And currently, this is an issue of topical debate within academic circles.
We are learning, Prof. We are learning. Thank you so much for the knowledge that you are sharing with us. There is another question on the chat box from McDonald. It reads, how can open scholarship contribute to addressing societal challenges such as climate change, health disparities, or social injustice?
Well, open scholarship can support climate change, health disparities, and social injustice in the sense that one, it challenges the traditional paradigms and epistemologies that are based on control and privatization of information and commoditization of information. That's one fundamental thing. It advocates for the democratic access to outputs, research scientific outputs. And also, it can be useful for climate change in the sense that the way we have approached maybe climate change is that we have used Western paradigms to deal with climate change. Yet climate change is a multi-faceted aspect that has also an ethno-cultural dimension, which might require a deeply culturally grounded approach, which might imply how we as generators of content, as managers of knowledge, can handle indigenous knowledge, which falls under the legal term, which is known as the sui generis, meaning collectively owned knowledge, knowledge without copyright. There's a lot of knowledge without copyright. Someone can just look into the sky and tell you that it's going to rain or there will be heat today, using what you can call agro-meteorological paradigms, where they can predict weather patterns. Well, I'm not saying we don't have, we can use imaging technology, artificial intelligence, and etc. But Africa is a complex space which has got so many dimensions that are deeply rooted in culture. And so we can use how do we deal with that? How do we manage it? How do we protect that knowledge? How do we make it accessible? How do we ensure the originators of that knowledge are assured that their knowledge won't be abused without attribution to them? Just like the case of the Sun and the Khoi. I think you remember a certain company came to steal the rooibos plant, which is known the Woodia plant. This is a plant that the Sun and the Khoi is traditionally have been eaten when they go for hunting. So it can starve of hunger. You won't feel like you want to eat. So scientists realized that no, if we take this plant, we could use it to starve off obesity. So where people want to eat, when they take that plant, they won't think about eating. So this became a very serious case because it was like biopiracy, and it was also a form of epistemic injustice and cognitive injustice. So we need also to ensure that we participate in world intellectual property issues and also indigenous matters issues and also other platforms. The list is endless.
Thank you very much, Prof. You have already alluded to the fact that our knowledge or the research output that is produced by our researchers might be prone to abuse. I think we are already seeing that on AI, because I think it's inevitable we cannot control what AI harvests from these open repositories. I don't know, it's a concern by scholars who publish on open access, because nowadays there's a lot of use of AI, and the questions that are posted on AI, I think the responses that we get are responses that have been harvested from scholarship resources. However, there is no acknowledgement on the research output that will have contributed to the responses on AI. I don't know, is there anything that we can do, or it's something that has gone haywire and we have no control over?
Oh, well, AI, I didn't want to personalize the discourse because I know there are so many people here within. I think I also wanted, if there are others who have something to say, then I can come in. If there is none, then I can go ahead. Maybe first to find out if from the audience, if there is someone who has something to contribute, then I can also come in.
Colleagues, any contributions?
Afternoon.
Yes, Tom, you can go ahead and
Thank
speak.
you, Prof. I just wanted to check on, like you are saying, publishing on the open access. We now have AI, like you were speaking about. Is there any processes within our data storage or within our database management, or whose efforts is to embrace AI? Because you see, like now going to EBSCO or whatever, or Google Scholar to get data, it's now easy with AI. And my question is there also any attempt to, I understand that for example, you are doing a research, you have to, there is a standard way of referencing and citation. Is there any efforts around the world in terms of library to cite data that you get from AI, using it as a citation in your research? Is that yet, are we not yet at any level where we can use AI results as a citation in your research? That's my question.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think some institutions are allowing that, where you attribute that you used AI, but others are still very skeptical about the use of AI because of ethical and integrity issues. So I agree with you there on the sense that yes, that's what I wanted to say initially, that AI has got advantages and disadvantages, and we should not downplay its impact, because it's here to stay, and we need to embrace it. If you read the book How Europe Underdeveloped Africa, Walter Rodney talks about how technology was used to impose some form of hegemonic control within the global south. But he also argues that that same technology, you can also use the technology as an emancipatory tool to reposition yourself and etc. So I agree with you in the sense that it's now easier to access scholarly content because AI can help you to do that, like Copilot, etc. Win AI, all those other platforms. They make it possible for us to access data without any problem. I think you still remember, even when Wikipedia started, even up to now, there's still policies that don't use Wikipedia. But the Wikipedia of today and the Wikipedia of maybe 10 years ago, there's quite a difference. The one for now is it's more collaborative, and they are using experts to do the referencing and etc. and etc. So good things sometimes face resistance, but with time they become the norm. But what I was worried about is not only that, but also the fact that this abuse of AI for nefarious reasons.
Thank you very much, Prof. I'm sure everyone is happy. We have learned a lot. Apologies from Mr. Chikwana. He had to attend a meeting. So if there are no further questions and contributions, I am going to ask the Deputy Librarian of Great Zimbabwe University, Dr. Hogo, to give us closing remarks. Dr. Hogo, over to you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Deborah. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you, Prof. Chisita, for taking time from your busy schedule to be able to be with us today online and present on this very good topic, which is a very tropical topic, which is also marking the Open Data Week. I found this presentation to be very insightful in many ways, as it was speaking to the open science movement that is we are in as the academic community, and more importantly as librarians. This is what we are leveraging in terms of research support. And in your presentation, I think you spoke on a variety of issues broadly, the open science movement, and of course the various advocates for this movement. And I was also enlightened also on the emphasis that you made on the various benefits of open access and the early fears that were there in terms of embracing the open science movement, and which is also brought in partly the challenges that you mentioned, which some were human-made and some were within our reach, especially in Africa. We were talking about the infrastructure and also the institutional, and through the discussion that some of these things through advocacy, they can be eradicated bit by bit. And I was also very much enthusiastic on your presentation on the representation of African scholarship in the open science movement and how we can participate in that space. And I think you really touched a lot on that through the presentation and also as follow-ups through the question and answer sessions. And also the issues that we are in now, the issue of paywalls, that is also hindering. It's quite very tricky, especially for us African libraries, where we have to pay content from our colleagues, even from our own lecturers. Sometimes we fail to get it, even after funding them to do their research, maybe through page fees or through their funding their empirical research. But at the end of the day, when they publish, you fail to access their research. So it's something that we are looking forward bit by bit that this open access movement will open a lot, so that people will be able to see research results a lot. So these are some of the things that I was able to pick from the presentations, which were very interesting. Of course, the principles of open scholarship in terms of scholarly communication, which you talked about, the Vienna principles, the issue of also decolonizing the open scholarship. I think this is a very, very interesting area, and personally, I think it's some area that I would really need to study a lot on this issue on decolonizing the open scholarship, so that we also benefit from it, and also able to champion our cause as Africans, so that we don't rely on the North. We were able to archive, especially when you talk about the institutional archives. Most of our institutional archives, they are in elemental stages. And when those who are trying to get going in terms of institutional repositories, is moving quickly to harvest the data from these IRs, so that they can present it in their databases in the North. So some of the things that we need to look at, especially after Doe becoming the director of African Repository, is something that we can leverage on and increase our presence on the net. So I think these are some of the things that you presented, which were very touching. And of course, you did talk a lot about this subject. And I want to thank you once again for being with us today. And I hope this is going to be a lot of collaboration. I know it's not the first time that you have been with us, but we hope that you also join us even later this year when we also commemorated the Open Access Week in October. That will be part of us in these events. So I want to thank you on behalf of the librarian who was not even able to finish the presentation with us. Also on behalf of our Great Zimbabwe University, on behalf of the library, and on my behalf. Thank you very much, Prof.
Well appreciated too.
Thank you. So I now hand back to Deborah to finish the formalities.
Thank you very much, Doc Hogo, for the closing remarks. I have also shared my email address in the chat box for those of you who would want to receive Prof. Chisita's presentation. You can email direct to me, and I will share the presentation with whoever might need the presentation. Thank you very much, colleagues. Hope you had a pleasant time with Prof. Chisita. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, colleagues.